Mm-hmm.
That's rough.
Yeah, it is rough. If I had known that you needed me to turn off your background noise, I would have hit the remove background noise option, but here we are.
I would recommend hitting it every single week from here on out.
Normally I have it enabled by, you know what? Hold on.
It is loading.
Right?
Oh, there we are. Okay.
Yeah. We continue to be in the place that we already were.
So here's a question.
Yeah. Let me give you an answer.
Can you hear it now?
Can you feel it now, Mr. Krabs?
No, can you hear it now, Mr. Krabs?
It's less than it was before, which makes it tolerable.
All right.
That's still kind of there, but look, Gavin, look, this is a live show. In the post-production, you know, we can just, I'll run this through a noise, like a noise cancellation thing. I'll just hit, you know, remove background noise and have an AI-driven thing fix it.
We've got the watermark on the stream as well.
The what now?
A watermark. It says created by Riverside on it.
Hey, you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with it.
We're just free advertising out here. Okay.
Yeah. Look, I will say, Gavin, I love Riverside as a service. This is not a sponsored or like promotional thing. It just, in general, I've made a number of recommendations to people over the past couple of weeks on Riverside. I feel confident in what they do. I'll fix it next time, but I don't mind giving some free advertising to Riverside because I like their service.
Sounds good.
They make my life easy as a podcaster.
Yeah. As a content creator.
As a content creator. That's right. That's right.
Welcome to the podcast, folks.
Welcome to the podcast. Hello. Welcome back to the MLS Now podcast. I'm your host. You can find me on social media, Mr. Danger Russ. My name, for those who didn't figure it out, or for those who are listening for the first time, is Russell. Look at that little play on words there, Russell. Mr. Danger Russ. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. Joining me is also our wonderful co-host. You know, I like to say that I'm the comedic relief. I'm the person who improvises, comes up with everything on the spot. I provide personality, but you can't have a podcast without wonderful tactical insight and a very dry sense of humor who has hard-hitting fact-based journalism. Of course, you can find him on social media at LionsBlog1. It's Gavin. Gavin, hello.
My favorite part of that was the coming up with things on the spot. That was my favorite part.
It's factual in nature.
Today, maybe. Today.
In general, I would say. I certainly don't have a, you know, I very rarely have something like a notes or a script in front of me. Surely not.
No.
Yeah, no, it's all off the cuff here.
It's not like you write out every single word you're going to say in the introduction. You write out verbatim what you're going to say about each game.
Correct.
You write out your exit. Never. Never, ever. Paragraphs of text. Never.
In my long, illustrious history of creating content as a podcaster, Gavin, I've never known myself to do any sort of preparation for these. I just show up and I hit record and that's it. We are off to the races. So in today's
you sound like me.
Yeah.
You sound like me.
Right. Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, just show up and hang out.
That's right. Gavin, how are you, by the way? Speaking of vibes, where's the vibe meter at today?
Today, the vibes are okay. Saturday and Sunday, they were low. They were low from a sporting perspective.
Yeah, I did call you immediately after the conclusion of your sporting event. I think I was like, hey, buddy, how's it going?
You're driving on the road somewhere, I'm pretty sure.
Right, because I always call you when I'm driving somewhere. That's what
This
I
is
do.
true. This is
I
true.
make use of my time while I'm in the car. I'm like, look, I can do two things at once here. I mean, I can be Travis Kelce, do two things at once. I can drive and get to a destination while also connecting with people and having meaningful discussion and relationship building opportunities.
You could do three. You actually did three things at once. Not even you could. You were watching the score, driving, and connecting with Gavin.
It's hard to say I was watching the score when the game was over. I was gloating about the score and also cheering you up.
Yeah. So, anyways, my weekend was Liverpool last second winner against Nottingham Forest as an Arsenal fan.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Orlando City 5-0 spanking by Miami.
Right. Important to emphasize that you did lose that. For anyone who maybe
Yes.
didn't watch that match, we don't want them to think that you won at 5-0.
No, we got spanked.
Right.
We got our booties handed to us. Manchester City comeback win.
That was never in
against. Yeah, that was never in doubt, but it was for a little bit.
It was never in doubt.
The what is his first name? Jonathan. The Jonathan Lewis handball took away $18 from me this weekend.
That's a shame. I remember you sending
when the game was
to the
comfortable.
group chat about that.
The game was comfortable, and the Jonathan Lewis handball took that away from me. And I almost cashed out at 15, and I was like, no, I think they got this. Nashville don't look threatening. And then 10 minutes later, the penalty happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that one hurt. It was a rough weekend. Arsenal set me right today, though. So that's how I'm doing. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I can always rely on them until you can't. How are you feeling, Russell?
Well, I'm feeling good. I didn't, we talked about our experiences of having money taken from us, as sports giveth and sports taketh away. Whatchamacallit? My actual 3-leg bet that we made last week did not hit, but plenty of other things that I bet on did hit. So I felt quite good about that. I think I was up like $90 on the weekend. So good little, nice little bonus there.
Yeah, you did really good.
Continue to fund my throwing away of money by incorrectly guessing my 3-leg picks, but that's okay.
Yep. Hey, we got a couple chats in the chat, I guess is what you'd call it. But they're talking about the game. So do you want to jump to that, or do you want to hit on those later? I could bring them up later. Then we can get into our big topics.
I guess which games are we talking about? We could tie the big topics in depending on some of the games.
All right. It's from Alex. He was asking about if we should be concerned with Orlando and Seattle. They're both not playing very well. So I guess that could be a topic, like what teams are not playing very well at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I
Orlando
like that
and
question. Yeah. Orlando and Seattle are not playing well at the moment. I mean, there's multiple teams that aren't playing well at the moment, though. I mean, NYCFC continues to not play well at the moment. New England's not playing well at the moment.
This stat has been doing the rounds, but not a single team has 2 wins from their opening 2 matches this season. No one had 6 points. I know Miami's played 3 games, but they tied Galaxy in their second match. So no one is 2 for 2. So is anyone playing well? Anyone on 4 points, I guess, relatively.
Yeah. I would say anyone over, I guess, 1 point per game is probably doing okay at the moment.
Yep. New England, not doing well.
No. Colorado, not doing well. San Jose, not doing well. Austin, not doing well. I mean, it's interesting, though, because the same teams, so we were bantering about what we wanted to name the title of this particular stream and episode, and we settled on setting expectations, right? And we had the big rigmarole in the last week where we talked about we have to reset our priors and we've got to, go in with an open mind about these teams are going to be different this year. And I feel like I just listed off the exact same teams that were at the bottom of the West and the bottom of the East as were last year. And so while,
for the most part,
granted, 2 matches for the season, right? I mean, very hard to draw a conclusive sample size, but I think it is fair to say, look, Seattle have not started off the year strong by any stretch of the imagination. Orlando did quite well last year, not started off strong. In fact, I would even say they looked quite bad, especially against Miami. But I don't, Gavin, that's one that I do want to ask you more about. Where is that a player issue? Is that a coaching issue? Is that both? I mean, losing 1-0, maybe you got, out tacticked, right? Like Tata Martino might have found the right way to squeeze a goal in, but you
Well,
lost
even one
5-0.
even 1-0 could just be the ball bounced the other team's way.
Right.
5-0, that's
an
where
issue.
I think it's more out tactic and the players got outplayed. To answer the question, I think both Orlando and Seattle should be slightly concerned with the start to the season, but it's a long season. You can get it back, and those are two good teams. So, if we're gonna get into the
we hope.
am I getting in? We hope. Are we getting into the Orlando match then?
Yeah, take us into the Orlando
we're
match.
Right
because,
there.
Gavin, I don't know if you know this, but I was watching MLS wrap up, as I do, because I'm always interested to see what stories are being portrayed. And of a 50-minute wrap up show, 15 of those minutes were spent talking about Miami. So I would love for us to immediately start talking about Miami as well, just to stay consistent across MLS media.
A very uncharacteristic defensive display from an Oscar Pareja coach team. We'll start there.
All right.
I thought we had a really high line, which we have been seeing more recently with Orlando, but this looked like a game where Pareja wanted to use as a litmus test. You know how coaches will sometimes use certain games, certain big games to see, okay, can my strategy get us somewhere? Where early in the season, this was a good litmus test. And he went with his tactics. He went with his strategy. We've been playing this 4-4-2 with the second striker instead of like a out and out attacking midfielder, and it just didn't work at all. It didn't work at all. We had way too much space in behind, and Miami took full advantage of it. And I don't want to just look at this from an Orlando perspective. I thought Miami played really well. I thought the rotations in midfield, in terms of a player jumping out of a space and another player filling that space, those sort of rotations, they passed the ball right around us in midfield, and we couldn't cope at all. I don't think we were expecting them to not have Busquets. I think that was a good switch, just to have those extra bit of legs in midfield for them. And they just passed right around us. They passed over us. They ran past us. A lot of second man runs where they would have a player engage one of our defenders, usually Schlegel. They really picked on him in this match. And then they'd have a second man run into that space that he jumped out of, because our right center back jumps forward a lot. And that's how they got in a couple times. They scored a couple times. They were close. I think they were offside at one point where they could have gotten a sixth. It was a really good display from Miami. It was really strong tactics. So I have to tip my cap to Tata Martino. Very uncharacteristic from Orlando, though. Extremely uncharacteristic from them. So that's my thoughts on the match. As an Orlando City fan, I want to give all credit in the world to Miami, because I think their play was the main contributor to them winning 5-0, more than Orlando City just being bad and Miami getting lucky that they caught us on a bad day. They had a part to play in that their 5-0 win as well.
Yeah. I'm curious as well to ask this, Gavin. We talked about briefly in one of the group chats that a blueprint had been laid out by LA Galaxy in their match against Miami. I'm curious as to why you think Pareja would look at that match and say, ooh, Galaxy probably had a good shout to win that match. It's unfortunate they did not. And then immediately say, let's do something that's out of character for us. And I'm going to use it as a litmus test against a side that I just saw how to beat them.
I don't think that the tactics that we went with were too uncharacteristic. We haven't been a team recently who sits deep. encounters. We've been more of a somewhat high press, somewhat mid block, kind of half and half, and then transition. Like I said, Miami just played through it. Every time Miami played through it. So I do think Pareja used this as a litmus test to see how the strategy would work against, a rival in a big game. And it just, the spacing was all wrong. Just everything was wrong. We were 2-0 down in 10 minutes. Like everything was wrong. So, I'm not sure why.
Wasn't the time to do the litmus test.
Yes. I never understand why some coaches do that, in my opinion. Like, when it's a big game, you would think as a coach you want to possibly make some slight tweaks to be able to cope with the other really good teams' threats, while also still having your threats take advantage of their weaknesses. And some coaches just want to stick by their principles. Pareja is obviously one of those coaches. So it is what it is. 5-0, and the only thing we can do now is just learn from it. That's the only thing that the team can do, and I'm excited to see how we do against Tigres.
Yeah, I am excited to see how you do against Tigres. I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to be well. Sorry to be a downer.
On Lions blog podcast, which I've restarted, I predicted a loss against Miami and a win against Tigres. I think we'll go out there and play really well, actually.
I hope you do.
We have some bad blood with them from last season. So, all right, shall we get into our big topics?
Yeah. Let's hop into some of the big topics, Gavin.
Can we start with mine?
Yeah, we can start with yours. Absolutely.
I'll start with mine. I'll be quick. Okay. So, we saw this weekend James Sands. I'm not sure if you saw. James Sands got a red card.
Mm-hmm. Multiple red cards this weekend. Yep.
But James Sands in particular was the one that sparked this thought. His was a retaliatory red card. So where I think it was Durkin came in for a really hard challenge. And as he was falling over, he kicked out and studs Durkin in I think it was actually the hip area. I don't think it hit him in like the chest, but it was more like the lower hip area. And that hurts. When you're falling over and someone kicks you, that hurts. It's happened to me before. But
I'm assuming that studs to any part of the body hurts.
Yes. I tend to sympathize with the player who gets the red card in those scenarios, because I can understand the frustration when someone is being dirty and takes you out and they're only going to get a yellow card for it. Things aren't going your way. I think they were 2-0 down at that point. And he just had a heated moment. He saw red and he kicked out. And he's like, "What the heck?"
And then he saw red.
And then he really saw red. That's a good point. Good. That's why I like you, Russell. Mm-hmm. There's the comedic relief. You were right.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
I sympathize a lot with the retaliator in those moments. And sometimes I don't think it's fair that they get a red card and the other player gets a yellow. And in this instance, I felt that where Durkin sprinted from far away, completely clattered into Sands, totally unnecessary. There's probably some smack talking going on, and Sands retaliates in the moment and gets sent off. Durkin only gets a yellow. I don't know how that gets fixed, if it can get fixed. I don't think both players could get red cards. I feel like both should get yellow in that scenario.
Maybe they should get blue cards.
I did think of that while I was thinking of it. Actually, no, I'm serious. I did think of, is that a scenario where the blue card could come into play? Both players sit down for 2 minutes. I don't think it should be 10 minutes. I think it should be like 2 minutes of ball in play, or 4 minutes of ball in play.
2 minutes of ball in play, Gavin? Why would you want to make them sit for 30 minutes of time on the clock?
Fair. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Am I just being too sympathetic to those who deserve red cards? Like, what are your thoughts on retaliation?
How offended would you be if I told you I thought you were insane and I have no sympathy for people who are retaliatory?
I wouldn't be offended. I would just think you're wrong.
Okay, well, that's look. I think that it's right that Durkin can get away with just a yellow on that. Maybe not. However, if you retaliate and kick out and send studs into someone, you're gonna get a red 9 out of 10 times, and I have no sympathy for it. I recognize that in the heat of the moment, you're ultra competitive. You see this in other sports where players are getting into altercations or fights. I mean, look at hockey, look at NFL, look at NBA. Like, these players in every single other sport will get into each other's faces and have fights and disagreements and all that. However, you have to know deep down in your heart of hearts, the second you retaliate, unfortunately, the ref's already looking at you. They're going to see it. You're going to get sent off. It sucks. It's awful. It's terrible. It's going to happen. I have no sympathy for it. You know it. You know it as a player. That's why other players do it.
That's what gets me. Is that that's why players do it, because they know they can get the other guys sent off. And it's like,
absolutely.
That's, to me, that's dirty. And then I don't like that, man. I don't like when someone runs across the pitch, smashes into somebody, falls on top of them, and then they get kicked on the way down because the other player's pissed that they just got taken out. And I'm the one who initiated everything. I'm the one who unnecessarily ran across the field and fouled the guy. But I'm only getting a yellow, and he's getting sent off. I don't that's where I sympathize. I don't think that's fair. I don't like it. I really don't like it.
I hate to tell you this, Gavin, but it may come as a shock. The world and sports are not fair.
Whatever.
I don't like it. Look, I agree with you. It sucks. Whatever. It's terrible. But
another example. You saw the Christian Pulisic stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the man is a red card machine. His greatest contribution.
Yeah. The second one on Guendouzi, saw that one, I assume?
Oh, yeah.
Where he's pulling at him.
Mm-hmm.
He's pulling all over him. Ref is a little late to whistle. Guendouzi gets mad, throws him to the ground, red card.
Absolutely. Deserved red card.
No! That is a yellow card, man. To me, that's a yellow or a future blue card, man. Like, no, you don't. You shouldn't get sent off for that.
But the way that the rules are written, you do.
Well, then, to me, I would want the initiator sent off too. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm completely wrong in this one, but like I do not like it. I do not like when that happens. Pisses me off.
I'm not saying I like it, Gavin. I'm just saying that the way the rules are written, that's what's going to happen.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
And again, maybe that's where your quote unquote blue card of the future, if they ever decide to institute it, comes into play, where you can say, hey, this person retaliated, but this other person did kind of provoke them into it. Maybe you just say, hey, you guys need to go cool out, take 2 or 3 minutes, 3 minutes, go have a seat, sit down, cool off, go talk to your coach. We've got some therapy sessions on the sideline. You can go and, pour out your emotions to this designated MLS mental wellness counselor. Whatever you want to do. Honestly, I would love that idea. I would love to see like them getting, like a calming down instead of like a talking to by a coach, but like have a designated person calming them down, being like, let's talk about this and let's process this. Let's walk through what's happened here. I think that would be very funny. It
would be, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would ever happen, but I would love to see it just for the drama. It would be an instant meme. People would give so much crap to MLS if they did it. I would love it. I would hate it, but I would love it.
For sure. All right, we can get into yours now.
I forgot what mine was. Was it about refereeing again? I feel like it was
yes, the memo.
again. Yeah,
the memo.
The memo. Mm-hmm. So
The memo.
storyline came out. This has been talked about, I would imagine, quite a bit on social media at this point, and I think it's still important to bring up. So a memo was sent out. It was obtained by The Athletic. They talked about how MLS had sent out to media and to broadcasters and to match commentary saying, don't belabor the point about these replacement refs. We know they're replacements, and we don't want you to talk about it too much. I hate that. Just, I hate it. There was no reason to send this out. We already know, like, this storyline has been played out, and honestly, the replacement refs haven't been noticeably worse, in my opinion. Like, do they get calls wrong? Yes. Guess what? The previous referees got calls wrong too. To me, you're needlessly creating drama, trying to control a narrative or storyline that was already playing out the way that I think MLS would have wanted. Pointless.
Yeah, so on the memo, like you're right, they're completely trying to control the storyline. I mean, the SB Nation article that came out, I'm sure you saw that too. If anyone who's listening didn't see it, there was an SB Nation article that dropped, and the first two retweets or reposts on it were both MLS front office people on X, and so it was pretty clear. And I mean, it was minutes after the thing went out, so it was clear that this article was just paid for, and just anyways. On the memo itself, yes, MLS are trying to control the narrative. What this confirms to me, what we already knew, but confirms, is that MLS controls the way the media talks about MLS as well.
Right.
So right now we get a closed environment of content, and what I've always wanted is something that all the other American major leagues have, is non-league controlled content, right? So that's what we are. That's what Sports Center is. That's what I don't know any of the NBA shows are, but there are ESPN NBA shows, right. And with MLS, there just isn't. The content about the league is the studio shows run by now Apple TV and MLS. And so there's no major network or show that covers the whole league. You know, we're definitely a minor player in it with our little bubble of content, but I think we provide that. Not as good as we could if we had a multi-million-dollar budget, but
right. We do and media credentials. I mean,
yeah,
you know, but I think media credentials in MLS do come with strings attached. And I talked to a number of local reporters, people who cover different teams. Some of them I talked to a whole lot more than others, but there is very obviously strings that come with any access. And you've seen it with some of the off-season non-renewal of credentials. There were people who said essentially you shouldn't buy tickets to the team because it sends the message that you're okay with mediocrity, and immediately they lost those credentials. There were people who didn't say that, but they didn't toe the line, and I know there are some in the FC Cincinnati world that had media credentials and did not get them renewed because they didn't toe the line. They didn't say exactly what was expected to be said, or they went too far outside of the box that was given to them, saying you can color inside the lines here, but don't go too far outside of it. Don't go outside the box. And they strayed just enough that they got them taken away. And I think it is unfortunate in nature. I get it. I understand that that's likely how some of those bigger shows also work, right? When you get to like the NFL, I believe there are also anti-disparagement policies by at least within the league. And surely some of the larger talking heads probably are also being told, hey, don't talk about this or this, but we'll cover you. we'll help you out, get some inside scoops. As you know, you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. So I think MLS is just more heavy-handed in it, and there's less in the way of independent media because, I mean, ultimately you do get tons of like local stations covering every single team for, again, NFL, right? Everyone's got an NFL show. Any channel you look at that's a major network channel probably has like a 30-minute to hour-long NFL pregame or postgame or something where they talk about it. MLS doesn't have that yet. Yet. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, the problem is MLS doesn't have the viewership or fan base to engage in it, so that's the problem.
Right.
But
they will get there. I was talking about this actually with Tim over the weekend, and that was talking about generational fans for MLS. And we're getting there, right? Over time, let's use the Bengals or the Reds, for instance. The Cincinnati Reds, as a Cincinnati person, that's why I'm using these examples. But the Reds are a great example because they've been a terrible team. They've been a terrible team since the Big Red Machine in the 90s, and they've not been good for a very long time, and their ownership has actively said things that are spiteful in nature and anti-fan, and yet they're still fans of the Reds because it's generations have passed on, and they've passed on a love for the Reds, and they've taken their kids to games, and they've watched on TV, and you've had Reds opening day parade. There's so much memory and collective tribal attachment to the Reds that it exists. There's going to be a fan base for the Reds, and MLS will grow to that point in time. People who go to matches and are having kids now, maybe they'll take their kids to matches, and their kids are going to grow up going to local matches. They're going to grow up going to Nashville matches or Colorado Rapids matches or Cincinnati matches. And they're going to be attached to this team that they've only ever known this team for soccer, right? Same thing for Europe. People grow up and they go their whole lives being attached to one team in Europe. And you're passionate fans and you talk about it and it becomes part of an identity. And MLS will get there as generations go by. I mean, the league's been around for 25 years. That's not tons of time in the grand scheme of things to build up some of these fan bases that other leagues have. Not NFL, not MLB. I mean, look globally as well. The sport has existed for a very long time. People in the US like soccer, right? There's a huge appetite for it because it's not like the sport's unfamiliar. It's just this specific league has not existed for as long as other options have existed. So it'll get there. Yeah, it takes time. And I think, unfortunately, we want to say, like, what can we do right now? What can we do in the next 5 years? The biggest impact is just going to be staying in business. As much as I hate to say it, and that's what MLS is designed to do, is stay in business.
Yeah, that's where we're at in our life cycle. It's a really good point. I don't have much to add to that. Shall we get into the games?
I suppose. Well, we already did, Gavin.
Yeah,
we just got off topic from the games. Yeah.
All right, let's start with Minnesota United 1, Columbus Crew 1.
Yep.
The main thing. Oh, did you what?
Well,
what?
I think we were going to say the same main thing. Do you want to give me a hint? What were you going to say about your main thing? Let me see if
the last second equalizer.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. We had the exact same thought process. Yeah, Columbus. We talk about setting expectations and resetting priors, and look, it's not a great look for Columbus to go into a new season and still be struggling to close out games.
To be fair, this was just the ball bouncing Minnesota's way.
I recognize that, but that's also this sport.
Yep.
When you have a 1-goal lead, you're always going to be susceptible to the ball bouncing the other team's way. Columbus aren't even immune to just 1-goal leads either. What was it? There was a stat last year that they dropped more points from a winning position than any team, I believe, was the stat.
Was that them? Dang.
Yeah. Like, no one else was even close to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that they're now, there you go, two points dropped to a winning position in the last seconds of the match. Look, Columbus are going to be fine. They're dynamic in attack, and I think ultimately they need to figure out a way to score more than one goal, or at least have more than a one goal buffer. Because look, I don't think their ability to close out matches is going to suddenly get fixed. It's been over a full year at this point. I mean, both Nancy and Porter have had them struggling to close out matches.
Yeah. But that's the main takeaway for me from this match is the late equalizer from Minnesota. Minnesota have been impressive this season so far. Again, without Reynoso, we talked about it last week.
Were they without Longwani as well in this one, I think?
I think so, yep. They're still without both of them, and they've looked good. Sang Bin has been very good for them so far this season on the right, and the youngster Oluwaseyi, I think, is who scored right at the death, and so maybe they found a player there as well. So far things are looking good for Minnesota. They almost, they nearly lost at home to a very good Columbus side, but they got it right at the death. So
right, no shame in losing to this Columbus side, though.
Nope.
They won MLS Cup last year. They're a top team in the East.
They didn't get worse. So
yeah, they didn't get worse.
So cool. Next game was RSL 3, LAFC 0.
So ready to talk about this.
Take it away.
Well, Gavin, I just want to start by saying I think it's absurd that LAFC was forced to play in that much snow while Salt Lake was able to play in sunny 70-degree weather. Not a cloud in the sky, not even a hint of a breeze. And I mean,
wasn't fair.
It's not fair that only one side had to play in that amount of snow.
So I saw unverified, I didn't verify this, but I did see someone saying that LAFC thought that the game was going to get called off, so they didn't even show up on time. They didn't come, and then the game got pushed back. I don't know if that's true. That's unverified, so I could be talking smack.
Unprofessional is what it is.
If that's the case, it is unprofessional. It shows how they were prepared for this game, not at all, whereas RSL were ready to do it in whatever weather. That is a memorable game for those fans, for sure.
Yeah, it blows my mind that as well we schedule matches specifically to give us home field advantage at the U.S. men's national team level, which I think Cherundolo is familiar with the U.S. men's national team. And why,
he better be.
Yeah. So why is it at the club level teams no longer can benefit from home field advantage? Like when we go play CONCACAF teams, you go to Jamaica and it's 104 degrees and it's 95% humidity. And people say, well, that's just playing in CONCACAF. You've got to learn how to play in these conditions. Where's the same energy? Like, I don't know. I know some players really hate playing in the snow, but
I would hate it. I would absolutely hate it. But if we're playing the game and I'm picked, putting gloves on, putting a mask on, like the whole 9 yards, like whatever.
RSL had to play in it too. They don't, as far as I know, RSL doesn't go out and practice in the snow every day. I don't think they plan for this type of condition and play specifically hoping that they get a freak blizzard in the middle of their matches to give them some sort of undue advantage. Like, I could have just as easily gone the other way. And if it had, would the same complaints have been raised? Probably not.
Yeah. That being said, I have no takeaways from this match. From it's a freak game.
Absolutely none. There was some horrific plays. There were goals where players were falling over. Yeah, there's no sporting knowledge that I can take away from this. It was fun.
Yeah.
I loved it. The highlights, no comments. Great. As a spectator, love the snow game. I love terrible weather condition games in general as a spectator.
They're hilarious.
They are phenomenal. Some of my best memories are from terrible, awful, no good, very bad weather conditioned games.
There
FC
was
Cincinnati
a
lost 2-0 to Philadelphia in 2019, and I was there with my, still my girlfriend at the time, and later became my wife, and we were at that, and we were drenched. The rain was coming from all directions. We were losing. It was a terrible match. We had a blast. It was so much fun. We still talk about that. It was 5 years ago, and we still talk about that match in reverence level tones.
an otherwise meaningless 2-0 loss to Philadelphia in a another spoon winning season. So
right.
Yeah. Gotta love those games. Okay, we already talked about Miami 5, Orlando City 0.
You want to talk about it again?
I don't. Vancouver 1, Charlotte 1.
I was shocked about this one.
You had Charlotte winning, right?
I had Vancouver winning because
Oh,
every fiber of my being says Charlotte on a long flight to another country, lots of travel, playing on a field that I will say the turf at BC Place is terrible. It doesn't look good on TV. I can't imagine it looks good for the players. I can't imagine it feels good. No team ever looks the same playing on it. And I recognize that Charlotte actually plays on turf at home, and maybe that helps them a little bit.
But this is Vancouver's turf.
Yeah,
it's
but
different.
This is right. So
everyone talks about that one.
Yeah, I was surprised that Charlotte did as well as they did. I thought for sure Vancouver would take this, and I don't know what to think of Charlotte yet. That's my bigger takeaway, if I'm being honest. I have no idea how to interpret Charlotte at this point in time. Are they a good team? Are they a mid team? Are they a bad team? Jury's still out. No idea.
I really think that a lot of, if they're going to have improvement this season, I think a lot of it's going to be on the coaching. I just have a really strong feeling that the coaching over in Europe is better than the coaching in the United States currently. And I think, not Gary Smith, what's his name?
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith, thank you.
Yep.
Dean Smith is going to have a big impact on Charlotte. And actually, their first goal looked like England pressing. They pressed them into the corner. Raposo gives the ball away. Instead of doing an easy pass to the middle, he tries to do a flick and loses it. Next thing you know, Charlotte are jumping on that transition and scoring. And that is a very, very English goal. Not a very American goal. Just the way it looked visually, for any of our Premier League listeners or fans who are listeners, if you go and watch that goal by, I think it was Tavares who scored it for Charlotte, just look at the way the press kind of suffocates Vancouver into the corner. Vancouver give it away, and immediately the ball's fired in. It just looked very coached. It looked very coordinated, very coached. And so that's where I'm thinking Dean Smith is going to be the difference for Charlotte this season if they're going to have a good season. Yeah. Now, the players have to execute. Capetti should have scored a goal in this match. He didn't. The players obviously have to go out and be good enough to execute, but Dean Smith can be a difference maker for them.
And we've seen teams experience pretty significant turnarounds from coaching alone in this league. So
look at Columbus.
Yeah, I was negative on the Dean Smith hire, and I may end up eating some crow on that. I didn't love the hire. I thought it was a little uninspired, but the results.
Jury's still out.
Results may prove me wrong on this one, and early on, I have no idea if the results are going to prove me wrong. So I'll hold my tongue on this one and just hope that I don't look like too much of a fool. But if it happens, it happens. So moving on.
Well, just quickly, Raposo does make up for his initial giveaway.
Oh. Okay, continue. Yes.
Sorry, Raposo does make up for his initial. Well, I said it way better the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Raposo makes up for his initial giveaway. He scores. But did you see that he miskicked it?
No.
So the ball gets floated over the top, and he makes a good run in behind, and he's on like the left side of the goal, and he goes to kick it first time with his left foot and cross it in for a cutback, and it hits off his foot at a weird angle and slithers into the near post, but his hips and his body were showing for a cross. So Kalina goes to stop the cross, and the ball just slides right past him. And that's how Vancouver scored. So just one of the weird things about this sport where you just get a goal by accident. And I wanted to call that out as just like a funny little blooper from this weekend. All right.
Weird goals happen all the time. Own goals, miskicked goals.
All the time. All right. Yep. You're up.
Continuing. Kansas City, Philadelphia.
That's not next.
Yes, it is.
We got Chicago, Cincinnati next.
We don't, because that was at 8:30.
My thing was messed up. Okay. SKC Philly. We both have the same headline for this. So do you want to start this one?
Absolutely, yes. No referee has ever missed a call before prior to this match. So this was the first time in history. As far as I can tell, I did hours of research. Look, it is unfortunate they missed that call. They did. It would be absurd to say they didn't get it right. Similarly, though, it would be absurd to say that that Kansas City handled that situation well. I mean, look, you hate seeing a call go very poorly, but we've seen teams get scored on in the past where they're sitting around arguing with the referee or trying to make a demonstration or a commotion. And for instance, we saw it last year with some free kicks, really quick free kick taken. Players aren't ready. They're not looking. Turns into an easy goal. This is one where I have a lot of sympathy for Kansas City because yes, the call was wrong, but you have to be ready for it as well because there were wrong calls in prior years too. And quite frequently. So it feels like this was a mental lapse by them. I doubt that you would see them replicate this type of thing for the rest of the season. I hope that the referees do a little bit better job looking at it, but I mean, it can happen. Every team has been on the receiving end of it. It sucks. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like you said, there's not much they can do about it. I don't think they necessarily reacted poorly to it in the moment, other than like a standard, oh, ref, you're wrong, like we're upset about this. But they still, they forced a corner for the last phase of play. Like it's not like they just immediately let the goal in. But from the ensuing corner is where the goal ends up happening, and really, really unfortunate, really unlucky because ideally the corner never happens in the first place because Sporting Kansas City have the ball. It's their throw-in. But then you never know. That's the argument, right? They could have had the throw-in. They just throw it down the field, and then they get back in their defensive shape, and maybe the corner still happens. We don't know. That could have happened still. So either way, the final argument is always should have defended better.
Yeah. Or the other argument is that the referee should have called it the right way, but
well, obviously, yes, the ref should have called the right call. But at the end of the day, people will say Kansas City should have defended better.
Right. You ultimately still got scored on.
Yes. So it's really, really, really frustrating though. I empathize. 100%.
I would be unbelievably beside myself if that happened.
I have been. Yeah.
It's happened to us as well. I mean, Cincinnati had a match against one of the Florida teams, Miami, I think. It was brought up in a group chat today where they talked about like, oh, we've had calls blown against us that led to goals too. It's terrible. It happens. It's part of the sport. We don't like it. We hate it.
I think the worst part is there's nothing VAR can do, right?
Yeah.
It's just a wrong call. But
it leads to a goal.
That's the nice thing about VAR is this is a less common occurrence where a clearly wrong call ends up in a goal. This is just a totally separate phase of play. Obviously, that's why VAR can't intervene. But I think even VAR looked at it. Like, I'm sure VAR looked at it and we're like,
it's an edge case scenario.
Yeah, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, what's next? Since
Houston,
I clearly don't have the right timeline.
Well, you don't have the right timeline because my timeline's the official one. Houston versus Red Bulls. I am interested to hear your thoughts on this one because I thought Red Bulls looked pretty dangerous. They have historically been better away from home than at home as well, just from my impressions watching them, where it feels like because teams feel like they're at home, they have more of an impetus to be in control, and that suits Red Bull's style better to allow them to hit other teams when they're not expecting it, and teams aren't necessarily sitting back as much. So, but again, I'm curious to get your impressions here because people have been pretty high on Houston. I was pretty high on Houston, but I'm starting off the season high on Red Bulls as well. So, where's your head at, Gavin?
I thought Houston had a really bright start to this match, and then they got the goal, and I think they got a little comfortable, maybe, and then New York just started to do New York things, like you said, hit them on the break, and they just have that extra bit of quality in Forsberg that really helps them get across the line. I thought he was really good in this match yet again, 2 matches in a row. I've been impressed by him. But overall,
Forsberg is looking good.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, is this just Champions Cup hangover?
That I don't know. I legitimately have no idea because
I think it's a bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a mixed result this week for Champions Cup teams.
Sorry, did any of them win again?
Yeah, Cincinnati won.
St. Louis won.
Yeah, and St. Louis won.
That's right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough.
I feel like I've just spoiled our next 2 matches because St. Louis and Cincinnati are the next 2 matches to talk about. So
perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Houston looked good from the start. They're definitely missing their key man in Hector Herrera. They're going through Champions Cup. That's what I put most of this down to. And of course, Red Bulls aren't going through Champions Cup. They have their key man, and they were able to finish their chances on the night and sneak past with a 2-1 win on the road in one of the hardest places to go away in MLS last season. We'll see if that trend continues this season.
And they're such a frustrating team to play against. I hate playing against Red Bulls. It's my least favorite team. Yeah. I suspect it's everyone's least favorite team to play against. They're my least favorite team to play against. And I say that with all the love in the world to Red Bulls fans.
For me, it's Philly.
Least favorite
for me, it's Philly. I can't stand playing them. So
I feel like we gave them a little bit of a pass here in Cincinnati because of Noonan and Albright coming and being hired from Philly. So
understandable.
A little bit of brotherly love there for that city.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Well, I kind of spoiled it already, but St. Louis against New York City FC. St. Louis wins 2-0.
All right. This is all I wrote.
Yeah.
Cushing in?
No, Cushing out.
So,
and we will get Coach Joe on this podcast to scream about Cushing if needed.
So the only reason why I would say Cushing in is because maybe that's the only way it can work. Maybe that is the only way it can work. We gotta do the reverse psychology. If you scream Cushing in, maybe the team will say, "Oh, the fans want him in."
Yeah, the fans of other teams want him in.
Yes, that is the problem.
As someone who's not an NYCFC fan, I would love for Cushing to stay in because that tells me that that's a terrible team, and it's going to be likely to get 3 points against them, regardless of whether you're home or away. I still have no idea what NYCFC sees in Cushing to keep him this long.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, they have not won many games between the start of this season and the entirety of last season, so couldn't tell you. That's the talking point still with NYCFC. Their forwards don't look good. Their midfielders, bleh. I mean, we saw we talked about what James Sands did, getting a red card after being 2-0 down.
Probably didn't want to play next week. He's like, get me out of Cushing's team. I don't want to be playing for this manager. I don't want to be dealing with these tactics. Just stay home.
Yeah, I need a break. So unfortunate. St. Louis City back to winning ways. The main talking point or storyline with that team right now seems to be Adeniran and his impressive start to the season, scoring another goal this weekend. He's looking like a pretty good pickup by them.
Yeah. St. Louis seem to have done their scouting pretty well. We've talked about a number of their players that end up being not these huge name players, or being players that they pick up seemingly on the cheap, or people questioning why are they picking them up, and then they seem to do well, and we're like, oh, St. Louis kind of got it right on that one. And when you start to speak highly of multiple players multiple years in a row, either they're identifying players that fit their system well and they're putting them in a place of like a good starting point to be able to succeed, or they're just scouting well, and it's regardless of the tactics. But either way, something's working there. And I think right now it's a little bit of both.
Yeah,
granted, it's early in the season too. I mean, we need to see how St. Louis looked down the stretch because they faded last year.
Yes, and I think they've learned from that, again, going with a mid block and not a super high press. Although it isn't hard for your tactics to work against NYCFC. Right. But yeah, again, I've been impressed with their scouting, and so far so good for St. Louis. 1 win and 1 draw. I
think.
Who did they play last week?
They played RSL, right?
RSL. I think that was a draw. We're already forgetting results.
They got 4 points. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Actually, no, they played. Sorry, I was looking at Salt Lake. I was like, no, they played 3 matches. No, they played 2 matches. It's a winner.
Unfortunately, they were bounced out of Champions Cup. So, is what it is. All right.
Is Houston just the ultimate tournament team?
No, because they're going to get knocked out this round in Champions Cup.
You never know.
They're getting knocked out. It's happening. They're playing Columbus. I'm pretty sure.
Never know.
There's no way they knock out Columbus. It's not happening.
You'll have to see.
The second leg is in Columbus. It's not happening.
You never know. We'll have to see.
Okay.
That's why they play the game. Now it's time to talk about Chicago, Cincinnati.
All right, all you. I'm going on mute.
Oh, wow. It's bold of you to assume that I watched a Cincinnati match when I live in Cincinnati and have season tickets to see Cincinnati. Gavin, I actually am going to start this off with a question. Do you know, across the span of the season, how many open play goals Cincinnati have allowed so far?
This season. I would assume 0.
Correct. Yeah. 0 open play goals. And I think I have a sneaking suspicion that that's going to be very common for them this year. I don't believe that this is going to be a year that you look at Cincinnati and say they're this juggernaut of scoring, right? The season of Vasquez and Brenner and Lucho putting up, 18 goals and 12 goals and having all these goal combinations and having this high scoring, high powered offense that can pull out goals everywhere. And I don't think that's going to be them this year. This is, I think, going to be the year that that Cincinnati pushes for the potential record on like fewest goals allowed.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're not biased?
I am. Look, I'm a little bit biased. However, hear me out on this one. When we got to halftime, right? I watched this match. I watched the defense of Miazga, Robinson, and Murphy with a Powell right wing back and a Yuya Kubo left wing back. Cincinnati just added DeAndre Yedlin as well, which we haven't even touched on, and we probably won't touch on in this recording, but they're adding in a competent player in that position. They have probably two of the best center backs in the league between Miazga and Robinson as well. Chicago, when they got to the halftime, the announcers were talking about these stats, and they're like, "Oh, Chicago has, all this high XG. They've got like 1.02 XG, and they're doing a great job of creating chances." But Chicago had a penalty kick, which accounts for the vast majority of that. They were held largely to really not great, low percentage, almost wasteful chances. And similarly, Toronto, not given much in the way of good chances either. I would guess that's probably going to be consistent across the year. Just gut instinct there. I think Cincinnati's going to keep a lot of teams on zeros this season.
So, taking out the 2020 season, I guess not taking it out, but it's going to be hard for them to hit that record because the lowest goals conceded ever is 2010, where RSL had 20 goals against.
Think about also how many matches were played.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to find the table. Not even close.
Go find us from like 2017 onward.
30 games played, actually, in 2010. So there's 4 extra games for you guys to... If you guys had a really good defense, you could match that, but unlikely. In 2020, there were 3 teams who had 20, 21, and 22 conceded. But yeah, other than that, it's usually in the 30s for MLS. So it's doable for sure. But you're thinking your guys' defense is that's going to be really hard to get past this year.
That's going to be the parting piece for Cincinnati this year. In no way, shape, or form do I think they're going to be anywhere near Golden Boot conversation on any of their players. But I would be extremely surprised if Cincinnati does not get a Defender of the Year award again between either Miazga or Robinson. And honestly, Robinson looked really good. Shockingly good.
Well, he's a good player. He's been one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
So not surprised there.
On the Chicago side of things, Chicago, again, continues to just very silently impress me in terms of improvement from them. They are, I think, a much more frustrating team to play against this year. In prior years, I looked forward to playing against Chicago, and I was like, perfect. I expect to get a win here. This year, I think Chicago is going to surprise a number of teams. They're much more competent in the midfield. Shaqiri looks like he has options to actually feed into this year. Hugo Kuipers had good movement, and there were multiple chances that I was like, ooh, like we're lucky they didn't make the right play there because there was a good unmarked run being made. Now that's one of those things where sometimes you can't make the pass because you're being covered, and there's just no way in the world that you can actually send that ball where it needs to be, and that's fine too. But I have a suspicion, given the quality of defending in MLS is improving, but it still isn't the most amazing defending in the world, the opportunities are going to be there for Chicago. I think there's a lot of positives to take away. I think Cincinnati's a really good defensive team, but Chicago looked really good against Philly. They looked really good in certain areas against Cincinnati. I think they're going to be okay this year.
My only issue with Chicago is they consistently look pretty good. But they can never get over the line. They just can never do it.
I
And
think
so
they'll
it's
get
going
over
to take
the line this year.
it's going to take a lot for this team, I think, to learn how to get over the line. And that's my one concern with Chicago, because that's what we saw last year. I think they were the team with the most points dropped from winning positions last season. Not Columbus, now that I think about
it
it.
was still Columbus.
You think it's Columbus? Well, I think Chicago were close then last season.
They might have been close. I think it was Columbus.
Okay.
I think they were in the mid-20s last year.
I'll dig through some tweets and see what we find. But overall, that's my concern for them. So
that's a fair concern.
I could see another year. They've got Frank Klopas in right now. Look good. Drop points pretty consistently, and they go, we looked good in that match. Why couldn't we get the ball in the net? Oh, why couldn't we keep the ball out of our net? Those sorts of questions. So
I don't think Frank Klopas is taking them to a supporter shield. He's not taking them to an MLS Cup. I don't know if they're even able to compete for US Open Cup, because I don't remember if Chicago was even considered. I don't think they even made it into US Open Cup for the first team. So I don't think they're winning silverware under Klopas, but I think they will at least be competitive and competent this year. And
how sad is that, actually? Even that the Open Cup is gone, and for teams that aren't very good, that was one route to silverware.
Right.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
But
that's a whole different podcast.
Yep. All right. I have Colorado, Nashville next.
We can talk about that. I had Dallas, Montreal, but we can talk.
Oh, we haven't talked about that one yet?
No, we haven't talked about it yet.
Okay.
One of the things that destroyed my 3-pick on the weekend.
That's unfortunate. It probably, I was gonna say it probably didn't help, but it didn't matter. Opoku off early with an injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate.
I think it didn't help, but you're right. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It did help Montreal, though, because I believe the man who subbed on for him, let me go look at the timeline here. Yes, Jules Anthony Vilsaint scored the first goal of Montreal's 2. And if you don't remember last season, I was very high on Jules Anthony Vilsaint's performances. I think I got lucky and I caught his breakout game. He got a goal and an assist, looked really good. Instantly went down with injury in that match after getting those 2 goal contributions in his debut. I believe it was his debut. He's back on the score sheet. Love to see it. Yep. So all I can say is keep an eye out for that kid. Only 20 or 21 years old, and I think we've got another young player to keep an eye on here in MLS up in Montreal.
We love keeping an eye on young players.
Sure do.
You know what?
I'm going to clip that and put that on TikTok. Yeah. I hope you know that.
That's right. You know what we equal parts love and find annoying as well, Gavin? Do you know who scored the winning goal for Montreal?
Sir Joseph Martinez. Sir Joseph.
We were down.
Joseph.
Yeah, we were down on Joseph this offseason. I'm still not sold, for the record. A disclaimer. Still not sold. But I mean,
it's good to see him back on the score sheet.
Right. That it is. It's nice to see him on the score sheet, like you said. It's nice to see him making the impact, and for a guy who has had as much success as he had in MLS, if he could have one more swan song season, I'd take it. I don't think he'll have one more swan song season, for the record. I think he'll do the thing that many strikers in MLS do, where they stick around a little too long, and instead of dying a hero, they live long enough to see themselves go out as the villain.
On the flip side, hitting on Dallas really quick, disappointing to lose at home this week. Mm-hmm. I get it. Montreal, again, were pretty good defensively. Goalkeeper had a good end to the game as well. But you want to win these matches if you're FC Dallas. home matches you got to win or at least get a draw. So dropping points here early in the season is going to hurt a little bit.
It is going to hurt. Here's the substitute bench for Dallas. James Maurer, Sebastian Lletget, Paxton Pomykal, Tomasi, Jesus Ferreira, and then Norris and Deli and Ansa, which I'm less concerned about. That's a strong bench for Dallas. Now,
Tells me they're all recovering.
Yeah, I recognize there's a lot of names on there that are coming back from injury, but boy, I have questions.
If that's your bench, then your starting lineup ain't as strong. Although they did have their expensive striker in, and he got his first goal of the season in Musa, so that was good to see. But yeah, things are just feeling for me a little stale for Dallas.
Yeah.
You know, with Estevez a couple seasons ago, they were looking really good. I think they got a home playoff spot. Last season, they kind of fell off a bit. Haven't been impressive starting this season, but yet again, they are struggling with injuries, which they struggled with last season. So we'll see.
Do you want to go off topic briefly to have a fun question that I was going to save for the end, but I'm worried we're going to forget about it?
You can always take me off topic, Russell.
All right. Way too early, angry mob, unnecessarily getting out the pitchforks and torches. Which coaches are getting fired this year? Why is Estevez going to be one of them?
I don't. Well, if you're asking me why, not if,
Right.
There's been some good level of investment from the ownership, and if he's not delivering, the ownership will want results sooner or later.
Okay. I don't think he'll be gone, but I do agree with you that at a certain point, you have to start asking yourself if you're ownership or management and say, what can we change that we're not changing right now? So,
yep.
Yeah.
They can change their medical staff.
Yeah. Will Gary Smith be good for Nashville?
Maybe. They've had a rough start.
They've had a rough, multiple seasons.
Yeah. Smith for Nashville, Wolf for Austin. Cushing will hit his limit this season.
I hope so. I really hope so. I agree with you on Wolf. I am not convinced on Cushing because they've stuck with him for so long, and I don't know what they're waiting for at this point.
Mm-hmm. That's really it. I can't see too many other movements unless some team just has a complete nosedive. Like, let's say...
What about Pablo? What about Mastroeni?
I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right.
Recognize... I think we're reading a lot into a 3-0 Blizzard game, but Salt Lake have not been great for quite a while.
Last season, they were fine.
Yeah,
until they got injuries.
They were fine up until the Leagues Cup, and then they were basically unplayable.
They lost Pablo Ruiz.
And if you lose... Yeah, I'm not so sure.
No, they're fine. They're not losing Mastroeni. They look fine.
We'll see. I am not convinced by Mastroeni, personally.
If any team's going to have a nosedive, I'm looking right now at standings, looking at all the teams. If any team's going to have a nosedive, I could see it being Dallas. That would cause a coach to get fired. Currently.
Interesting.
So, that's my answers. Those are my answers.
Okay. Sounds good.
Let's do it.
Someone clip it. Gavin, you clip it. You've got access to these.
I am the clipper. I am the clipper.
Clip on. Clip off.
What are you talking about?
That's going on TikTok for sure.
It's got to. I don't know what it is, but here we are. Congrats to Montreal, first win of the season.
Colorado, Nashville. Do you think we can talk about this game in 60 seconds or less?
I'm very upset with Colorado. So, yes. They should have won this game by more than one goal. They should have won it probably by clear goals. Instead, they give an idiotic, not an idiotic, but just like a dumb penalty away. Lewis has no one near him in the box. He turns, it hit his arm, penalty. And it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
There goes my buddy.
For the record, they didn't even score their goal. That was an own goal.
No.
Yeah.
It was Shaq Moore banging it into the ground, right? It hit the ground and then it went in the net? Or did he just hit it straight into the net?
I will admit I have blocked out parts of that match.
I think it hit the ground and went in.
Yeah. I had a separate side bet as well on Colorado because I too was confident they would win this, and the odds were just so good. And they should have.
Nashville have looked so bad this season.
They've looked so bad.
And so, I mean, Colorado had multiple chances to score another goal to make it 2-0. They fluffed them all, 1-1, whatever.
It's not a great look for the players. If you're fans, I'm assuming you probably are already saying we made a mistake with Chris Armas too. Granted, I recognize its execution of the players for fluffing, but there was apprehension about Armas, and that will, I think, surface quickly if results don't follow.
Yeah, he's going to be on a short leash already, so Colorado fans and Colorado ownership had pretty good investment this offseason. So if things don't go their way, who knows?
Yep. You want to talk about Portland, DC United?
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Ooh, I love questions.
Do you think
no
DC?
I've never thought before.
I can tell. Do you? So you're saying you've been quietly impressed with Chicago?
Yes, I've been quietly impressed with Chicago.
I've been quietly impressed with DC.
That's a hot take, if you ask me.
Hot take.
Yeah.
A win and a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Because the win was over New England.
Yeah, and I think New England are a bad team this year.
But Portland had a great first game against Colorado, and Portland were up 2-0 going into the last 20 minutes of this match.
That's true.
And DC dominated the end of the match. Completely dominated. And, like, I'm not talking like, oh, they were just putting in long balls and they were bouncing their way. No.
They dominated.
They got their way with Portland. And they brought it back to 2-2. And as soon as the game started going their way, they never looked back.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
Quietly impressed. Quietly impressed. What have you thought of their season?
I am going to keep my mind open. If I recall correctly, I think Troy Lesesne has the DC job right now. Troy Lesesne did pretty serviceable last year with New York Red Bulls. He, I think, was a casualty of bringing in new front office people who wanted to have their guy. So I'm not made up on my mind yet in terms of where DC is. I thought Troy Lesesne did very, very respectable in his position as interim manager with New York Red Bulls. DC this year probably has better talent than New York Red Bulls had last year. Just looking at the quality of several players there, and I know we're probably all recency bias on a Benteke hat trick last week. So, yeah, I'm not... Okay, yeah, I'm open to the idea that DC will be a better team than we give them credit for based on the balance of their previous years.
They didn't even majorly upgrade this offseason. I mean, they had Benteke last season. They had Mateusz Klich last season.
Yep.
They didn't even have Benteke in this game.
Yeah, but again, they had Wayne Rooney as a coach. So it's an upgrade to get rid of him. We've seen what he has done since going back over to the EFL. He's taken a team and took them immediately into relegation contenders from promotion contenders and was sacked after not even 20 matches at the helm. So
fair. I mean, the major upgrade for them was definitely Gabriel Pirani, who's looked decent thus far. But yeah,
maybe the major upgrade was Troy Lesane.
Could be. I've been quietly impressed. On the flip side, I think I will say I've been loudly impressed with Portland to start the season. But some would say
hot take.
Some would say 4-1 against Colorado. That might not be too much to sniff at, depending on how Colorado's season shakes out. Being 2-0 up at home against DC, giving that away, not great, in all honesty. So obviously still need to see what's going on. But to be fair, either way, on both ends, the first goal for DC in the comeback was a dumb penalty to concede. Ball comes in, and the defender has his hand up, appealing for offside. Flick on, ball hits him right in the hand.
I love that.
Penalty. Yeah.
Absolutely adore that.
Can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. So that was...
You love to see it.
That was interesting to see. Yeah. So
hey, did you see the rumors that Portland are interested in Berterame from Monterrey?
Yes, that would be
15 million.
That would be massive. He is such a good striker.
They got better production out of Vasquez though, for half the price.
Monterrey?
Yeah, Monterrey.
Yeah. Berterame is a fantastic striker. He would eat in this league. I promise you. Promise you.
We'll see.
Eat in this league. He was pivotal, I'm pretty sure, to them winning Champions League a few seasons ago.
15 million is a lot of money.
He literally, I'm pretty sure he dragged them to winning the Champions Cup.
But 15
Champions
million
League
is a lot of money. 15 million
I'm
can
searching
get
it right
you a really good player.
Yes, it can. And I think he is that good of a player.
I am not convinced he is a 15 million player. Not in a transfer market that is as depressed as it has been, especially this winter.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking of Funes Mori.
Mm-hmm.
But
who went to which team?
I don't know. What team is he on? He's on a Liga MX team, I thought.
I thought he'd been linked to a European team.
He was. He is on UNAM now.
Yeah, on Pumas.
No. Okay, but Berterame is still a very good team. A very good player.
A very good team, yeah. Team of one.
He is a very good team.
Right.
No.
Not 15 million.
I promise you he'll be worth it if they get him. I promise.
I think you could get a better player for 15 million.
Agree to disagree.
Is he a good player? Sure.
Yes.
Is he a 15 million player? Disagree.
He's better than Pepe.
Agree. Yes.
Case closed.
Pepe didn't sell for 15 million, so
he sold for 20.
Wow. Here's the thing. When did he sell?
That's true. When he was younger.
Yeah. And he sold before the huge transfer fee collapse that we've seen just recently.
That's fair. Okay. Let's get this one out of the way.
Yeah,
way too long.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle 0, Austin FC 0.
That was boring.
I'm glad I did not stay awake for that one.
I stayed awake for this one and I regretted it.
Anything at all? Any takeaways?
No. I wish I hadn't stayed awake for it. I was mad about it. I had a side bet on Seattle. They blew it.
That's rough, my friend.
I know it was on a 4-leg, and I had to hit 3 out of the 4 legs, and no, Seattle just couldn't get it 1 goal, so I was quite annoyed. De La Vega, I think, went off in like the 60th minute too. So
I think he's still getting in full.
Yeah,
fitness.
from what I remember, he went down in the 60th minute, and he like did the thing above his head, like where he was like, "No, I need a sub," and he went off. So, and they sent in Rui Diaz for him, and Yeah, you know what I think about Rui Diaz this year too. So
Oh yeah, we had that conversation last week for sure.
yeah, I'm not down on De La Vega yet, but I'm down on Seattle at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on with them.
So I think Seattle play Philadelphia next weekend.
They're gonna lose.
You really in
Yep.
CONCACAF? Philadelphia play Pachuca. You think Seattle aren't going to be able to beat a rotated
No.
Philadelphia?
Nope.
You are low then. You are very low on them.
I am low on Seattle.
Okay.
Like, I recognize maybe this is just reactionary, but yeah, I'm low on Seattle.
Failing to beat Austin at home is pretty bad.
That's
failing to even score against them. Yeah. Okay. I've got
about a more fun
match. Cali Classico next. Yep.
Yeah, more fun. Yep. Are LA Galaxy back? People are talking.
LA Galaxy are so back is actually what I wrote. And I said, I don't care what Matt Doyle says. Galaxy are so back. Paintsil and Gabriel Peck are so fun to watch. I love it.
Paintsil is fun and frustrating to watch is the word you were looking for.
Fun. He may not always score.
And frustrating.
He did score.
You're correct. It should not have been his first goal.
Fair. This season, yes.
That probably should have been his like third or fourth goal this season.
He'll figure it out, I think. But that's what we said about who went to Colorado from Galaxy. Cabral. No. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes? Kevin Cabral. We all said he was going to figure it out, and he didn't.
Cabral still is not going to figure it out.
No.
We have said a lot of players are going to figure it out in this league, and there are many players that prove us wrong.
Paintsil will figure it out.
I hope that Paintsil figures it out. I really do.
Yeah. This was a fun match. I said I didn't stay up for Seattle Austin, but I did see the first half of Galaxy San Jose. I
will just note, Gavin, and you saw it. You saw in my sports bets that I sent to you that I did pick a Galaxy winner in 2 of my bets, and Galaxy made me quite a bit of money this weekend. So
yeah, smart man, because they are so back.
They are so back. Hold on, I got to look at what was it that I picked here. Yeah, I had picked a Galaxy and Toronto 2-leg.
Smart man.
Paid off in spades, and I also picked a St. Louis and Toronto 2-leg. So I only picked a Galaxy once in the things that paid. I picked them across, I think, like 3 or 4 different bets, but other teams, cough, cough, Seattle, did not uphold their end of the bargain.
Nope. Anything on San Jose?
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry, San Jose fans. I don't have much either. It's very bland.
I want to like San Jose. I'm looking for something to like about them is the issue. I will find something. But I'm not high on them right now. San Jose are pretty low. San Jose are last place in the West. They are the only team with 0 points.
They have 0 points. Yep.
They have 0 points. Will San Jose be the spoon contender? Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Okay.
I think they will win games enough to not be a spoon contender. I forgot
NYCFC exists in this league, so
right. They did make some big signings this offseason too, I believe. 1 or 2 big offseason additions, but just I don't know what it is about them, but they just can't get it fully together. No matter what they try to do. It's frustrating.
Well,
it's frustrating to see.
We'll see. Hey, final match of the weekend, the one that sealed some big money for me. New England 0, Toronto 1. Hey, Toronto have allowed 0 goals this season. Are
They
they back? People are asking.
Toronto also allowed 23 shots, and New England managed not to score thanks to some big saves by Sean Johnson and some poor finishing.
Mm-hmm. I have to tell you right now, it was the only time in my life I've cheered for Sean Johnson when he made the save at like 89 minutes or something.
Yes.
Where I was like, yes, Sean Johnson just made me probably. I think Sean Johnson probably made me
like
like
$100.
$100. Yeah,
Yeah.
he made me like $100 on that save there at the end.
Jonathan Lewis owes me $15.
Yeah, you know what? I will buy Sean Johnson a drink if he comes into Cincinnati and hits me up. I'll be like, you know what? You made me $100. Some of this belongs to you.
The Cincinnati NYCFC game, you can do that, and then you can lace his drink. So they have to play their backup goalkeeper.
I will get Sean Johnson drunk, and he'll be playing that match hungover.
Yeah, good man.
I'll take Sean Johnson to a tequila bar, and we'll drink a lot of good tequila.
Yeah. So this game really hinged on Sean Johnson, I think, is the main talking point for me. Great saves, not just that one at the death that's been circulating social media, but there were a couple more where he had some good saves. Poor finishing from New England. I thought Toronto did look dangerous on the counterattack.
They did.
I took a note of that.
Here's what I would say is my note. Toronto looked composed and like they had an identity under Herdman.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about this on another team earlier, that coaching can be big, right? I think it was Charlotte. We talked about Dean Smith. I think Herdman will be a similar coach where, yes, they have retained a lot of the major pieces from last year, but under Herdman, I think you're going to get vastly different production out of those same pieces.
That's fair. I think they just threw in the towel last year after the start to the season and all the stuff going on in the locker room. So, yeah, it's a brand new season for them.
You're right. It is.
And I think Herdman will get much more out of the players, as we've already seen so far this season. Last thing is obviously the Insigne goal, just high quality from him. That's what he's paid to do. So we just need to see more of it.
Yeah.
So based on that, as I said earlier, no team has 6 points from 2 games this season, which is pretty insane to think about, that no team has won both of their opening 2 games. So everything's to play for.
Yeah. Hey, can we talk about how much of a buzzsaw the East is right now? There are 8 teams with 4 or more points.
Yeah, we all said it's going to be the strong conference this season. It's going to be really close, and yeah.
Yeah.
Close it is.
There are 5 teams with 4 points in the West. There are, in the East, 7 teams with 4 points and 1 team with 7 points.
Yeah, Miami, obviously.
Right.
So
they played 3 though. So
yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting year. I'm liking it so far, and we'll see what this weekend brings.
I'm looking forward to it.
What did you? I guess everyone knows we lost. So I had in terms of bets.
Lose.
Yeah, this is for our little game where we're doing sports bets.
For our pick 3, which we can't seem to hit any of these on.
I was going to win because I had St. Louis. I had Portland to score over 0.5 goals. So they needed 1 goal, and they got that pretty early on. And so I was watching that Colorado game, and that's the one that bit me. As I said, Jonathan Lewis. So I had them winning, and they got a draw. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
What was why did you lose again? I don't remember. Was it
Seattle?
Year 3.
Yeah,
Seattle
screwed
at
me.
home.
Mm-hmm.
That was your safe one, I bet, too.
That was my safe. No, it was my middle one.
Okay.
But yeah, Seattle hurt me.
Yep, big time. All right.
Shame.
Do you want to go
What do
first?
you-
Shall I go first?
Yeah, so I am locking in. I've got a couple different pick threes this week, and I've got a bunch of two legs as well. But the one that I'm locking in this week is I'm taking Atlanta United over New England Revolution because New England have been terrible this season. I'm taking Los Angeles Galaxy over Nashville because Galaxy are so back. We just talked about that. And Nashville have been dreadful. And then finally, I'm taking Inter Miami over Montreal. And it pains me to take this one, but I think Montreal are just going to give Miami so much potential possession and field position that ultimately the quality of Messi is, I think Messi's going to feast in this match, unfortunately. I hate to say that too, but I think that's going to happen. So
Okay. So I went a little risky this week, actually.
Ooh,
I went a little risky with my picks.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I also want to know what are your total odds on yours? Because mine's close enough to plus 800.
Okay, you have plus 800.
Plus
As I
800.
said, I went risky. I am at plus 1772. So over double
Right.
yours. I went with tie or Seattle.
Okay.
Double chance. For Philly versus Seattle. So tie or Seattle.
It's going to be Philly, for the record.
Yeah, probably. But I'm banking on CCC.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm banking on. So Minnesota over Orlando. I did it to my own team. Again, CONCACAF Champions Cup. We're in the middle of a big Tigres tie. We are at home. We're in the middle of, I think, Saturday or Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday run. And I think maybe Wednesday, Saturday or something like that. So it's a rough run for Orlando City. And I think this could see us lose at home. And then I went with Galaxy over Nashville.
Yep. Galaxy over Nashville just feels so safe with the way Galaxy are playing right now. And with the way Nashville are playing right now.
Yeah. You never know with Nashville because they can just shut down and get a 0-0 whenever they want, it seems like. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
without Hani and really, I would love to say without Hani and Surge, but really without Hani, I have no faith in Nashville to do anything at all.
Yeah. Well, you were pretty spot on. 1 hour and 37 minutes in, and we are done.
Yeah,
you're pretty good.
Done.
You get it.
I get it.
You've done this enough times.
Look, I know how this works. It's not my first rodeo. I told you it was gonna be an hour and 45 minutes. We started, 9 o'clock ish. It's 10:47 now. So,
well, thanks for listening. If you're a fan of the show, one thing that would help us a lot is to drop a review. We don't ask for reviews a lot, but would appreciate some reviews from y'all if you enjoy the show. And if you don't enjoy the show, drop a review and tell us how we could do better.
Absolutely. Or tell a friend.
Take criticism. We do that on this show.
Well, Gavin takes criticism, remember?
Yeah.
Just as a blanket statement here, just brief reminder that if you have anything negative to say about the show, you can find us on social media at LionsBlog1. And if you have anything positive to say about the show, you can find us on social media at Mr. Danger Russ. So, and of course, you can find the podcast itself as a whole at MLS Now Podcast, both on social media and online at mlsnowpodcast.com. We have a few contributors that are already all over the place on posting some in-season content. And I say this as I remind myself that I have a wonderful episode to drop on some teams from our contributors who got onto a podcast with me. So look forward to that here later this week. In the meantime, Gavin, listeners, as always, till next time.
Till next time.